Does everybody know Mazel?
Yeah, the doggy.
Yeah.
Can you say Boker Tov Mazel?
Boker Tov Mazel.
He says Boker Tov back, you just can't hear him. So I'm so glad to be here today. Do you know why I'm wearing this funny raincoat?
Because it.
Good answer, Simon. But this is the Shabbat when we read the story of Noah's Ark. There's an ark right there. You know what an ark is? It's a big, huge boat. And on that boat were all kinds of animals. Do you know why? Rachel. What happened in that story? Something came down from the sky. Do you know what it was? Lots and lots of rain. That's right. Not for 1 day or for 3 days or for 5 days, but for 40 days. It rained and rained and rained and it didn't stop.
Inside for 40 days.
So I brought my raincoat just in case.
I was wondering about that outfit.
Yeah, just in case it starts raining again.
It was interesting.
So I also brought my friend Mazel. How many people have a doggy at home? Yeah. So one thing I want to tell you about Mazel is that he's very nice. So nobody has to be afraid because he never does anything naughty and he's always nice to people and he never bites or does anything bad. So you don't have to be scared. In case anyone doesn't have a doggy or doesn't know a doggy. I'm sure he is, Adam. So, she? Right. So there's one very special thing about doggies. I don't know if you ever realized it. Take your finger like this. Don't put it inside your nose. Put it on the outside of your nose and go like this.
Yeah.
Tell me, when you're feeling your nose, is it dry or is it wet?
Is it dry?
Is it dry? It should be dry.
It's dry.
But if you took that same nose, that same finger, and you touched Mazel's nose, guess what? You would feel that his nose is wet. In fact, all doggies have wet noses. Did anybody wonder, how come I have a dry nose, but all the doggies I've ever seen have wet noses? How come they have wet noses? Is it because they're always licking their noses? No. Is it because they're always sticking their face in their water bowl and drinking water? Well, they do that, but then it would dry. But doggies' noses are always wet, right, Mazel? So the question is,
Yes, he does.
why are doggies' noses always wet? So I'm going to tell you a story. Does anybody want to hear a story about that? Well, it goes all the way back to Noah's Ark and all that rain. You know, God said, I want to make sure that when it rains and rains and rains, that all of the animals are in a safe place, are in a dry place. So God said to Noah, I want you to take all the different kinds of the animals in the world, birds and doggies and lions and bears, and what else do you think was on the ark? Giraffes. What else do you think was on there?
Dolphins and frogs.
What? Zebras.
And hippos.
Hippos. What else? Froggies. So all of those animals came on the ark, and there were two of every animal, 2 zebras, 2 hippos, 2 elephants, 2 giraffes, 2 froggies braiding, 2 of every single animal. Well, listen to this story. So all the animals went on the ark, and do you know what Noah had to do all day and all night? All day and all night, he he had to go and feed all of those animals and give them water and brush their fur and take care of them and clean up their, messes. And all day and all night, Noah was so tired because he was working so hard to make sure that all the animals had something to eat and something to drink and a place that was clean for them to sleep and to rest. And he really had to work hard on that ark. Well, finally, at the end of all the rain, the ark stopped. And he knew that it was safe to come out. And he stood at the doorway, opened the doorway of the ark, and all of the animals started to come out. 2 froggies, 2 kangaroos, 2 giraffes, 2 donkeys, 2 kitty cats, 2 of every single animal, except there was only 1 dog. Only 1 doggy left the ark. And Noah said, that's very strange, because I know that I brought 2 doggies on the ark. And every day I would check on the doggies, and they were both there. And every day I would feed the doggies, and I know they were both there to have their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And every day I would brush the doggies' fur and take care of them and play with them. I know there were 2 doggies, so the other one has to be somewhere on that ark. So, Noah took out his flashlight, and he went searching in the ark for the other doggy. He knew that it had to be there somewhere. So he started on the very top deck, and he looked all around, in every corner, and under every bench, and in every nook and cranny, and he shined his flashlight to make sure that he would see everywhere that he looked. But on the first deck, no doggy. So he said, that's really weird. I'm going to try the second deck. So he went down the steps of the ark to the second deck. And it was darker down there, so he really needed his flashlight. And he looked all around. And he looked in the stables where the horses were. And he looked in the pens where the pigs were. And he looked in all of the different parts of the ark where all the animals lived. And they were all empty now because all the animals left. And he said, come here, doggy. But no doggy. Where could he be? He looked everywhere on the second floor. No doggy. Right? Right. So then he went to the very bottom part of the ark. You know, the bottom part of the ark, all the way down there, it's underwater when it's floating, and it was really dark. And it was really cold down there. And he turned on his flashlight. He looked everywhere he could. He searched up and down. He searched underneath chairs and in every little corner. And just when he was about to give up, he saw this. He saw the back of a doggy. Right? And his tail was wagging. But you know what? The front of the doggy's nose was stuck into the side of the ark like this. Can you make a sound like that? Everyone squeeze your nose and say, hello. Yeah, so Noah saw that the doggy was sticking out his tushy and wagging his tail. And his face was right up against the side of the ark. And when Noah got a little closer, he saw that the doggy's nose was stuck inside of a hole in the ark. Can you believe that? His nose was stuck in a hole in the ark. And he very gently came down and he took the doggy's face and he pulled it out of the... And he gently took the doggy's face out from the hole. And do you know what he noticed? He saw that the doggy was blocking a hole in the ark. Now, what would happen if there was nothing to block the hole in the ark? What would happen?
The water would
The water would come in, and what would happen to the ark? It would So the whole time the flood was going on, what was this little doggy doing? He took his nose and he stuck it in the hole to make sure that the ark would not sink and that all the people and all the animals would be safe until the flood was over. And God saw what an amazing, heroic thing that doggy did, and he said, from now on, I want everybody to remember how special doggies are. And so they never forget how the doggy saved the whole ark from sinking by sticking his nose in the hole so the water didn't come in. From that moment on, doggies' noses will always be what?
Wet.
Wet. That's right. Now, the reason I tell you that story is that every single animal in the world is special. Every animal has a special reason for being alive. Every animal does something important for the world. Maybe it's pollinating a flower so that it grows and takes seeds from one to another. Maybe it's...
Like butterflies save flowers.
Yeah, maybe it's to add beautiful things to our world. Maybe it's to help us be gentler and kinder, because when we see animals, we want to be kind to them. But the important thing to know about Noah's Ark and about doggies who have wet noses is that every animal has a reason for being in our world. And that means, you know what we have to do? We have to take very good care of all the animals that we ever see. Whether it's a butterfly, or it's a guinea pig in the ECEC, or it's a little doggy like Mazel, who has a wet nose to remind us that all animals are very important to our world. And that's the story of why doggies have wet noses.
That is a great story.